felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
Insurtech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Well, first and foremost, let me give a super quick introduction into the format of the session. I think it's a new one for us. It is a first. We wanted to have a bit of a ask anything, open style debate with yourselves. You know, I'm sure there's lots of questions that you guys want answering. And we want to make sure that all your questions are answered in the thick of this huge event that we've created. And what better person to be at the forefront of that than our good friend Rob Schimek. So Rob, if you want to please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Rory, first of all, great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. For all of you out there, don't worry, we can't actually see you. I can see silhouettes, so I generally know who you are. So if you have anything you want to say and you don't think I want to hear it, you can still say it. I won't know who it was anyway. But I'm Rob Schimek, and I am the founder and Group CEO of bolttech. I live today in Singapore on a day-to-day basis because that's where the capital came from that helped us to found bolttech. For those of you who don't know us so well, we are the world's most internationally scaled insurtech. By the end of this month, we'll be on 5 continents and 40 countries. I'm saying that I can see one of my people who should be putting us on the 5th continent by the end of the month. He's laughing back there. But 5 continents, 40 countries, so we are a global insurtech. And in the last 12 months, we've quoted about 85 to 90 billion US dollars of premium through the pipes of what bolttech has built as a machine. And if I just gave you one more sentence, I would say we're trying to be a part of helping to close the global protection gap. And we just want to make insurance more tailored, affordable, and accessible. That's what it is that we're doing. So very nice to get a chance to get time with you today.
Perfect. Well, as I say, this is it's an interactive session. It's led by you guys. Now, how you get involved, as you can see, there's a big QR code on the screen here. This should lead you into a site where you can ask those questions, and then I will do the honor of asking Rob those questions here. So whilst we're waiting for you guys to load us with some questions here, and I'm sure a lot of those will be very business focused and about the industry itself. But I wanted to focus initially on yourself, right? Because I think a big part of scaling such a vast business starts with the person, the captain of the ship. You know, what makes you tick? What do you do in your spare time? I think I know a bit about it myself. But you know, tell the audience what are you up to these days?
Okay, so some facts about me that I would want you to know. Number one, I lived in Singapore, but I'm from the wonderful city of Philadelphia, the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, the greatest national football team in the league. It is the sport, football, where you do not use your feet. For any of my colleagues that are international in the back of the room, it's the one where you use your hands. But besides that, I love to balance hard work with hard play. And some of you would know that just in February, my wife and I completed something called the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. For people who say, is that possible? It is if you do it as a tour where it's organized. So I didn't have to think about the flight. I didn't fly myself. Someone organized those flights. You get onto a plane and you fly with all the other runners. The hardest thing is to actually run 7 marathons on 7 different continents in 7 days. In the first marathon, it was Antarctica. It was well below 0. And in the third marathon, it was Australia. And in Fahrenheit, it was well above 100 degrees. And so those kinds of things were the biggest challenges of my life. What I think is really neat is to be able to run a really good business like bolttech around the world, but be able to leave my team in charge for that time period and have the company not miss a beat. So I have a really good leadership team. They don't really need me every day. I hope that they get to the point where they don't need me at all, and they can run all of this. But it is my desire to build a team of people who are really able to handle the company by you going to them directly and not coming to me.
Well, and I'm also curious as well on this one, but what drives you to do those things? Because, you know, they're very difficult. But why do you do them?
I guess in general, I'm always trying to prove that you can do things if you just put your mind to it. And it's really interesting. People say, like, how in the world do you do 7 marathons like that? Did you think about quitting? The answer, or was your body a problem? Well, my body's a problem because my knees are creaky and old. But in reality, if you just decide to do something and don't renegotiate with yourself every time, then you'll succeed. And it's just a lot like running the business. So to me, doing these things in personal life and doing these things in business life, they're actually basically the same. We basically decided what we were trying to do with bolttech. We don't renegotiate with ourselves every day and every month whether we're going to do it. We just do it. And I think that that's a really important quality that many people lose because they say, oh, it's too hard, and so therefore I'm not going to do it. No, it's not too hard and you're not going to do it. You're going to do it because it's hard.
And I'm sure as with a lot of those things that you do, right, there's maybe things where you look back and you said, hey, I could have done that slightly differently. I'm going to start with a question. And by the way, thank you. There's a lot of questions coming in here. But the one I'm going to start with, it's so obviously building bolttech from zero to global scale so quickly. What's one decision you'd change immediately if you had to do it again?
Wow. So what's one decision I would change immediately if I had to do it again, building bolttech? Wow. I think the first thing I guess I would say is that I probably focused much too much on the hard skills of the business rather than the softer skills of the business. And some of you might say, that's a little confusing. My example is my skill is a finance skill. My background is in finance. I've been a CFO. I've been a partner at Deloitte & Touche, so I'm an accountant at heart. And so I want to always bring it back to the numbers and bring it back to those I call that the hard skill, the understanding of the finance or the understanding of the accounting. And in the truth, in the final analysis, it has nothing to do with that, or at least that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is really, really understanding how to get backwards from what does the customer want, and therefore, how can you build distribution to get what the customer wants into their hands? That's not always thought of as the most important part of the business. Trust me, it's the most important part of the business. I can build anything I want, as great as we want, but if the customer doesn't see value in it or doesn't need it, then I've built something great that nobody wants. It's kind of silly.
And I think this leads us really nicely into another question here. So talking about what the industry needs. So it's from an industry perspective, what keeps you up at night? And I'm assuming that is driven by what your customers are looking for, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe what keeps me up at night is also the same thing that motivates me, which is there's a multi-trillion-dollar protection gap that's getting worse, not getting better. So how in the world can it be getting worse when more and more people are here in the audience trying to make it better? And it seems super puzzling. And it just shows that the pace of the challenges that we're facing in the world are growing even faster than our ability to solve those challenges. And so that's the thing that really keeps me up at night. It's also what motivates me because I believe that this is all solvable. You know, imagine if you are the one entrepreneur who figures out how to really make a difference closing the global protection gap. The size of the prize is measured in the trillions of dollars. Holy cow, you could build a great business. You'll be really rich. You'll be rivaling the SpaceX IPO if you can really figure out a path to solve something that would make such a big difference in people's lives.
The next one is actually it's quite a fascinating one for myself as well. You know, I'm in the world of partnerships, but this one always I always think it's really important where, you know, from a commercial perspective, sometimes you're like, oh, it sounds good, but maybe it's not the right fit. But have you ever walked away from a major partnership, and why?
We have walked away from partnerships. I guess maybe I'll say to you two things. The first one is it's really important to be partner-led, and it's really important for us to not have our solution that we push on partners, but instead we try to work backward from what the partner needs. However, many times the partner doesn't understand what they need either. And so if you can't really get into a true partnership with your partner to where you can engage with them about, do we really understand what is needed, then you may never get to a place where you're delivering any value in the first place, because we have a view of what's needed, the partner has a view of what's needed, but they don't align. So yes, have we ever gotten into a place where we don't align with our partner? Yes. If you said to me, what's the best cure to that? I'd say try to figure out metrics of success that are jointly shared. Not what are my metrics of success and how do I push them on you, and not what are your metrics of success that make no sense to me, but instead how can we establish sort of joint working metrics that actually help us to define what is success. And whenever we don't have that, it seems like the partnerships can drift and stray. And so this process of having really good ownership of the relationship and frequent meetings where we're really focused on defining what is success, that's the key. Without it, you will likely not succeed.
I think the next one, I quite like this one because it's very personal. But looking back at your career, what leadership lesson has had the greatest impact on your success?
Which leadership lesson has had the greatest impact on my success? Probably when I've had to learn that I won't always like my boss. And you might think, by the way, that when you become the CEO, you are the boss. That's actually one of my mentors over time has reminded me that when you become the CEO, you have boss, but the boss is the board. And there's actually, instead of having one boss, in my case, I don't know, I have like 9 bosses and they have different voices. And some of them are voices that are friendly on day one, and some of them are voices that are not always friendly. And so I would just say to you that in general for all of us, you're always going to have over your career bosses you like, bosses you don't like, but learn from all of those bosses. On the ones that are actually really good bosses and teach you well and mentor you, copy what they do. But on the ones that aren't, please don't copy what they do. But for some reason, like in the human being brain, we copy whatever anyone did, whether it was good or bad. And so if you're going to really ever become any good, to my team, there's things that I do that they will not copy. I suspect that I hope they won't tell me what they are. They'll tell my wife what they are. But for sure, there's things that they probably shouldn't and won't copy that I do. Good. But there's for sure should be things that they see me do and they say, yeah, that's the right way to do it. They're back there saying, I'm not sure, we haven't found that item yet. But I would tell you, learn from everybody, whether it's good or bad, but learn from everybody. And you're a fool if you think just because I have a crappy boss, I can't learn anything right now, and therefore life is horrible. No, your life can be great when you have a crappy boss, because you're also learning how to not be a crappy boss when you become the boss.
The next one I was going to try and refrain from at some point, but I assume we all know what I'm going to say. AI. I want to get your take on it. Where do you see the ROI today?
So I think that AI is for sure here to stay. It's moving faster today. So the pace of acceleration is getting faster and faster and faster. So if you're not really spending a lot of your own time plugged into it, my best advice to you is get plugged into it, because you're going to be behind the game pretty quickly. I think that AI has two primary dimensions within this insurance business, and that is it has the back office efficiency dimension, and a lot of that can be solved by agentic, where we are improving the workflow end to end. And that's the one that I think probably scares people the most. All of your employees get scared that you're going to replace them because you no longer need employees, because you're going to do something that is end-to-end agentic, and there'll be no need for humans. I don't see that as realistic. I don't see that as what will really happen, but that's the scary piece of AI. But there's a whole nother dimension to AI, which is the offensive piece of AI, not offensive, which is our ability to crack this multi-trillion-dollar protection gap will come from tools that AI gives us to be better at providing protection to who needs it, in the way, how they need it, and where they need it, in a way that we've never been able to do before. So I'm super bullish and super optimistic about how this will help us to unlock the problem of how do we solve a growing protection gap? But it's also a really big factor in how do we do that more efficiently, and how do we make insurance more affordable, because there's way too much waste in this business today.
Well, I think going back to the people, I think it's great to talk about obviously the tech, but how do you find the people that work across all these different areas? And I know firsthand that's a hard thing, right?
In the end, we all understand that this in any service business, people are your big asset. Actually, I would like that people and data are two of our most important assets, right? And the best thing that I would say about people is that people follow people. So you have to create followership. So I believe that in all of the key positions within bolttech, I try to create leaders who are someone that the team will want to follow, and that will actually have some natural magnetism that attract people from outside the organization, inside of the organization. That is not universal. And by the way, you'll never attract everybody, and you'll never be the cup of tea for everyone. So I'm looking for, on my team, do I believe that I've got a good balance between not just IQ on the team, but EQ on the team, to where my team is a series of leaders that people want to work for. If you don't do that, then you're never going to attract good people, or even if you attract good people, you're never going to keep them. In general, except for at least a person or two on my team who's smiling back there, I think that they're pretty damn good at balancing EQ and IQ.
What do you think is Bolt's biggest achievement and why?
Wow, what is Bolt's biggest achievement and why? Okay, I believe that in this industry, many of us should be trying to solve a meaningful puzzle that allows you to go home at night saying, I feel proud about what it is we do. Something that we've done pretty well is we've set our course for this ship to trying to solve being a part of the solution for the global protection gap. And we think that we are part of the solution for the global protection gap. But one thing that we've done that is super hard for others to do is we've recognized that the global protection gap is, as the first word is, global. So one thing that we've done that I think is unique, and one thing that I think that we've done is pretty special, is we've created a truly global business. So we operate in North America, we operate in Europe, we operate in Asia, we operate in Africa, and soon we'll operate in Australia. And across all of those geographies, there is need for cure for the protection gap. And if you are only focused on a single country, or you're only focused on a single region, then you're gonna miss your opportunity to play a meaningful role. So part of what I think we've done well is we've created something that is global and that can do this at scale.
And again, we talked about like the different sort of areas of the world that you guys are operating in. How do you start with like, thinking about those areas? What are some of the tips and tricks there?
Every geography, it's the obvious point that everybody would say, okay, you didn't say me anything super meaningful here, because I would say every geography is different. Every country is different. Sometimes we think of it as, okay, it's only Europe. Okay, in Europe, they happen to speak French in France. They happen to speak Italian in Italy. They speak some version of English, not the proper English, in England. But you get the basic idea that that's not a one-size-fits-all answer. And you find that it is super complicated even for us. It takes us one license, one broker license to operate our business across continental Europe, but we cannot solve any problem using a team that does not speak the language and does not understand the culture of France versus Italy versus Spain versus Germany versus the UK. You cannot do that with this overly simplistic view of one size will fit all. And so people think of that as a generic comment, but it's actually super specific and super important and super relevant. And I think we're doing a good job of curing, of addressing that. When you get outside of Europe and you get to Asia, oh my gosh, there's not even such a thing as the European continent and a single license in Asia. Every country has literally its own regulator, has literally its own language, has literally its own culture, and it becomes an even more complex puzzle.
And I'm sure this actually, again, it leads quite nicely into one of the next questions I picked out, which is interestingly more focused on the product side. So talk to us about, and I'm going to actually expand this question slightly, but it's talking about some of the product enhancements and like the future of the product itself. Talk to us about that, but also how you do make it, I guess, regionalized in a way. How do you make it relevant for the right sort of the right geographies?
What I say when I try to describe what we're trying to do at bolttech is I say we would like to provide product that is tailored, affordable, and convenient for the customer. So that word tailored is really important because we try to focus our attention on a handful of industries, but one industry doesn't need the same thing as the other industry, and one geography doesn't need the same thing per se as the other geography. So it requires our team literally to work backward from the customer. And it's interesting, I've seen a great clip on Instagram about Bill Gates, and maybe some of you guys have seen this same one, which is he was doing a town hall and someone challenged him in a kind of unfair way, like a personal attack on him. Hey, Bill, like, how's your capabilities in Java? And tell me about like your coding expertise over the last 7 years. Has anybody seen that? This thing, it's really fantastic because Gates handles that in a really professional way, and he says, look, I'm never going to please all the people all the time, but what I can tell you is that if I work backward from the customer, and I don't focus on how good my engineering capability is and how good what I build is, but instead I focus on how do I work backward from what is the customer even asking me for, and how can I solve a $1 billion problem for the customers? billions of dollars of problem. That's how I make a dent, by the way, in the protection gap. Not by building some super cool product that I can push out, but by figuring out what is a multi-billion-dollar problem and figuring out what can I build to solve that problem. And I think that that is a super important part of the mindset that you have to have. We don't have a view on, here's the product, how can I push it out? We have a view on, here's the basic customer segment, and here's the basic customer set of issues that they want us to solve, and how can we solve that? And can we build something that's scalable across different geographies?
Well, we're running out of time very quickly, but I wanted to end on one sort of final question that I think is really important. But for those people in those sort of professional roles looking to move into leadership, what's the sort of one like must remember piece of advice?
Your EQ is as important as your IQ. I've had people report to me over the years, and when I meet them face to face, I will say to them, I love your IQ. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 10, but your EQ is a 0, which makes you absolutely average. Recognize that over time, your ability to relate to the people, your ability to relate to your customers, your ability to relate to whoever you're communicating to is super important, not how smart you are. Trust me, most of my team, they are all smarter than me, and I'm proud of it. It's far more important that you recognize how to orchestrate across them, and how to create a team, and how to work with partners so that they want to work back with you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can all agree, really, really useful. And thanks so much, Rob, for all your time. Pleasure as always.
Thank you, Rory.
But more so, thank you guys for being so interactive as well. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And we also have some running tops by Bolt at the back if anyone wants one. Thank you, guys.
Bolt Run Club.
Cheers.